Picture it, a quiet Sunday, you're scrolling your phone and you open your super balance for the first time in ages. It looks fine, but there's one number you can't see on that screen, and it's quietly shaping your entire retirement. It's your fee. A difference that looks like a rounding error, just 1%, can cost you more than a house deposit over 30 years. And most people have no idea it's even happening. If you've never checked this, that's not a failure on your part. Most people are never shown how much it matters. And you're far from alone. Australians paid around $32 billion in super fees in a single year, according to Rainmaker's Superannuation Benchmarking Report to 30 June 2023. Today, I'll walk you through 3 simple moves. Compare your fees, consolidate your accounts, and check your real fee rate, all free, all under 20 minutes. Here's the number that reframes everything: 20%. Aware. Super's own disclosure shows that paying 2% in total fees instead of 1% over 30 years can shrink your final outcome by up to 20%, turning a $100,000 balance into $80,000. This is general information, not personal advice. But sit with that for a second, because that single percentage point is worth a house deposit-sized slice of your retirement. And I'll show you exactly how it happens next. So here's your plan for the next 20 minutes. 3 moves. First, you'll compare your fees on Your Super tool. Then, you'll find and consolidate any old accounts. And finally, you'll check your real fee rate. Each one is free, and each one takes less time than making dinner. So how does something this small do this much damage? It comes down to percentage-based fees quietly compounding year after year. The typical Australian pays about 0.93% a year in total super fees per Rainmaker's 2023 report. That sounds harmless. And that's exactly the trap. APRA, the regulator that oversees your super, and Treasury both found fees stayed stubbornly high for years. Treasury's Financial System Inquiry showed average fees only fell from 1.4% in 2004 to 1.2% in 2013. And here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Watch what that does to your money. Aware Super shows that paying 2% instead of 1% for 30 years can cut your final balance by up to 20%. The difference between a legacy retail fund around 1.4% per Treasury's 2014 inquiry and a low-fee MySuper option. Australian Super charges about $387 on a $50,000 balance, roughly 0.77% per their own disclosure, is enormous. That gap compounds into tens of thousands by the time you retire. Those funds are illustrative, not recommendations. Now here's the second layer, and it quietly doubles the damage. Multiple accounts. Even if each fund's fee looks reasonable on its own, you might be paying 2 or more sets of fees simply because you've got more than one super account. Back in 2018, about 40% of Australia's 15 million super members had multiple accounts. That means 2 lots of admin fees and often duplicate default insurance, draining 2 balances at once. And this is where most people lose the most without realising it. Let me show you what doing nothing actually costs. i6 Money Smart uses a case study. Savannah, age 30, earning $50,000 with $20,000 in super, paying 2.5% in fees. By switching to a fund charging 0.85%, Money Smart shows she could be around $100,000 better off by retirement. And those multiple accounts across the system? Collectively, they were costing members about $2.6 billion a year in extra fees, according to the 2018 estimate. Here's the myth that keeps people stuck. The idea that fees are tiny, a fraction of a percent, so the investment return is all that matters. Most people believe this, and it's completely understandable. But according to Superfund's own modelling and ASIC's consumer examples, just 1% difference in annual fees over 30 years can cut your final balance by around 20%. Australian Retirement Trust estimates even 0.05% extra can cost up to $100,000 by retirement. Basis points aren't rounding errors, they're real money. Put the two costs side by side and the picture sharpens. $32 billion in super fees in a single year, per Rainmaker's 2023 report. And $2.6 billion a year wasted on duplicate accounts, per the 2018 estimate. High percentage fees plus paying twice. Together they compound into a six-figure hole by the time you retire. But here's the part most people miss. None of this is inevitable, and it's easier to fix than you think. Let me make this real with someone who could be you. Meet Amy. She's 35, a marketing manager earning $90,000 a year. She's got $80,000 in super, split across two funds, one old retail fund and one newer MySuper. Her employer pays 11.5%, the super guarantee rate from July 2024. She's got 30 years until she plans to retire at 65. Here's what she found when she finally sat down and checked. Discovery 1. Her old retail fund charges around 1.5% a year, in line with the historic averages Treasury reported between 2004 and 2013. A low-fee MySuper option charges about 0.77%. On Amy's $80,000, that gap is roughly $600 in extra fees every year. Now run it a few ways. If your balance is closer to $40,000, that gap is more like $300 a year. At $80,000, it's around $600. And if you've built up $150, it's over $1,000 a year. Using Aware Super's 20% rule, Amy's projected $600,000 balance could shrink to about $480,000, a $120,000 loss. Discovery 2. Like 40% of members, Amy has two accounts, so she's paying two sets of admin fees and likely duplicate insurance per the 2018 ATO figures. Across the system, multiple accounts cost Australians $2.6 billion a year. For Amy, that duplicated admin easily adds a couple of $100 a year in avoidable cost. Just $200 a year, compounding at 6% over 30 years, grows to around $15,000. That's a modelling estimate, but it's a genuine chunk of a house deposit sitting there for the taking. Now, I want to be upfront with you, because this is the honest catch. Discovery 3 is the one that stunned Amy, and it complicates the simple story. Australian Retirement Trust says paying just 0.05% extra a year across your working life could reduce your savings by as much as $100,000. Amy always assumed a difference that tiny was negligible, and here's the honest part. Chasing the very lowest fee isn't always right if it means giving up insurance you need or a fund that suits you. The point isn't lowest at all costs, it's knowing what you actually pay. Now let's add it all up for Amy, 3 ways. In a single low-fee fund, her good outcome is around $700,000. Stay exactly as she is, and she's closer to $525,000. And somewhere in the middle, fixing one thing but not the other, lands her between. That gap at the extremes, roughly $175,000, modelled on regulator and fund assumptions, is a Sydney or Melbourne house deposit. Whatever your numbers, the shape of this is the same. So could this be you? Here are 3 quick signs. 1, you've never compared your fund on the Your Super tool. 2, you don't actually know your fund's total fee percentage. 3, you haven't checked whether you've got more than one account. If any of those sound like you, don't worry. That's exactly what the next 3 moves are here to fix. So where does all of this leave you? You don't need to overhaul your whole financial life. You just need a few specific, practical steps you can start today. 3 moves. Let's do them together. Compare your fees, consolidate your accounts, and check your real fee rate. Move 1. Compare and benchmark your fees. This is the fastest way to find out whether you're overpaying. Head to the ATO's Your Super comparison tool through MyGov. Find your MySuper product and note its annual fees on a $50,000 balance. That's your benchmark figure. Then compare it against the lowest cost funds listed. This is general information, not personal advice, so weigh it against your own situation. Here's exactly how. Log into MyGolf and link your ATO account. Open Super, then the Your Super comparison tool. Find your fund and compare its fees on $50,000. What good looks like is around $400 to $500 a year, roughly 0.8 to 1%. If you're seeing anything over 1.2%, that's high by today's standards and worth a closer look. Move to Find and consolidate any extra accounts. If you're paying 2 sets of fees, this is genuinely free money back in your balance. In MyGov, go to the ATO, then Super, then Fund Details. It shows every account in your name, including lost or inactive ones you'd forgotten about. Roll the smaller or higher fee balances into your chosen main fund, but always check the insurance implications first. Step by step, go to Super, then Fund Details to see all your accounts. Note each balance and whether it's a MySuper or a higher fee retail product. Then use the Consolidate Super function to roll them into one fund. What good looks like is one primary account, one set of admin fees, one default insurance policy, and a lot less quietly leaking out each year. Move 3. Check your actual fee rate from your statement. The headline number on the brochure isn't always what you really pay. Open your latest annual member statement and find the section called Fees and Costs for the year. Add up every fee, admin, investment, transaction, advice, and divide by your average balance to get your true percentage. That single number tells you more than any marketing page. Here's how to do it. Find the line called Fees deducted from your account. Add up admin, investment, transaction, and advice fees. Divide that total by your average balance for the year. What good looks like is around 0.6 to 1%. If your effective rate comes out above 1.2 or 1.3%, you're very likely overpaying. And now you know it. Why does now matter? Look at the timeline. In 2013, Treasury's Financial System Inquiry flagged average fees still stuck at 1.2%. In 2021, under the Your Future, Your Super reforms, the ATO launched the Your Super comparison tool and APRA's annual performance test, publicly exposing high-fee, underperforming funds for the first time. And from July 2024, the Super guarantee rose to 11.5%, meaning more of your money flows into Super each year, which makes every fee difference matter even more to you. Once you've acted, take a minute to check it worked. You should now see one main account in MyGov, not several. Confirm your new funds fee sits under about 1% on a $50,000 balance. And if you consolidated, double-check your insurance still covers you the way you need, because that's the one thing worth getting right before you finish. Everything I've shared comes from ASIC's MoneySmart, Aware Super, Australian Retirement Trust, Treasury, and Rainmaker. All the links are below so you can check every number yourself. I genuinely encourage you to. If you've made it this far, you now understand something most people with Super never do: how 1% in fees compounds into a house deposit and the 3 free moves that stop it. The next thing worth checking is the default insurance quietly sitting inside your Super, whether you asked for it or not. So here's your one action today. Log into MyGov and check your fee on a $50,000 balance. It takes about 10 minutes and it could be worth 6 figures over your working life. If you want to keep making your Super work harder for you, that's exactly what we dig into next. I'm Alex. I'll see you there.